Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to this week's episode of Mitch Holcomb's math class. Today we're going to be learning about currency rates and exchange rates, what they are, how to use them, and how you cannot get duped by the exchange man. Okay, so let's jump right in. So the basic premise of a currency exchange is what is worth something in one country is not worth the same thing in another country. For example, in the United States, $1 is the basic level of monetary increment. And in Mexico, that $1 is worth 15, roughly, Mexican pesos. And that currency rate is always fluctuating based upon a number of factors that just don't need to be addressed in today's video. So whenever you're traveling internationally and you're traveling to a country that has a different sort of currency than you do, it's going to be very important that you can know how to transfer currency and know how to change it, and make sure that you know how to calculate it so that it's not just somebody calculating it for you. Alright, so let's talk about vocab terms. The first thing you're going to need to know is buy. Buy is a very important vocab term because it's the first thing you're going to want to do when you go to a new country. Buy basically means that the exchange rate place is going to buy your US dollars, your Chinese yuan, or your Japanese yen for whatever the current exchange rate is. And that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to do so that you can buy things in that country. The second term you need to know is sell. And sell is what you're going to want to do is if you've been in the country and you have that currency of that country, so you have Japanese yen, and you go to a currency exchange place and you want to change it back. They're going to sell you dollars for your Japanese yen at whatever the current exchange rate is. So those are the quick and easy terms you need to know, at least for this course so far. If you need any more, we'll get to those when we get there. Alright, so here's our first example. You have $1 US. We're going to start off really basic. And you want to exchange it for pesos. And the current exchange rate is 15.82 pesos to $1. That means you're going to get 15.82 pesos for your dollar. Awesome. There goes our first problem. All right, so now let's bump it up a little bit. If you have $500 and you want to change it to pesos with the same exchange rate from the last problem, what do you get? All right, so working through this, basically what you're going to want to do is set up a proportion. And we're going to create an acronym as we go through this video, and that's the first letter of the acronym, P, for proportion. Okay? So proportion is when you have multiple things and you want to compare them to the same like terms, right? So if you have $1 US and you have you know that $1 US is equal to 15.82 pesos, and you want to know how much $500 is in pesos with the same exchange rate, you're going to put 1 over 500 and you're going to set that equal to 15.82 over X. Then simple cross multiplication and division, and you have your answer. And the answer is 7,910 pesos. Okay, so right now, all is good. 7,910 pesos in your pocket. You ready to go. And you step up to the taco stand. You're looking the lady in the eye and you're about to tell her what you want to order. This is what you came so long, worked so hard for, did all that math to make these pesos. And then you get a phone call. And you look down and it's your mom. And you pick up and you say, "Hey, Mom." And she says, "Hey, son, you need to come home right now." And you say, "Why?" And she says, "'Cause your pet snake is sick." And you're like, "What? No, not Monty." And your mom's like, "Yes, Monty, come home right now." And you're like, "Okay." So then you ditch the taco stand, tell her hasta luego, and you're going to have to come back another time. So you walk back to the exchange place, and you walk into the lady, and she's like, "Weren't you just here?" And you're like, "Yeah, family emergency." And she says, "Okay, I will sell you my pesos for 16 pesos to the dollar." And you're like, "Okay, that sounds great." And you do the math and you realize it's not so great. Not great at all. And here's how we're going to figure this out. You're going to set up another proportion. Remember P, the first letter of our acronym? Right. So that's what we're going to do. And here it is. 16 pesos over 7,910 pesos, the number of pesos you have, underneath the exchange rate, which is 16 pesos to $1, which you want to know how many dollars you're going to get for your 7,910 pesos. So you set it up like this, cross multiply, divide, and boom, you have your answer, which is $494.38. You just lost $6, my friend. And that's the hard part about currency exchanges, is you never are going to make money unless you're a stockbroker, and that's a whole different episode of this show. And that has to do with way more complicated math than we want to get into for the purposes of this show. And you just lost $6 because those houses are running a racket on you. And that's just the way the world works. Okay, so now that I think we have this pretty much down, let's bump it up a notch to a little more ridiculous terms. Okay, so now we're done dealing with pesos. Let's start dealing with Japanese yen. Okay, so dealing with yen, I've put our exchange rates up on the board, and let's go through our first problem. Our first problem is you are going to Japan and you have $1,493 in your pocket because you just decided to bring a random amount of money to Japan and you want to exchange it for Japanese yen. What do you get? Okay, so we know the first letter of our acronym is P, which stands for, you know it, proportion. The second letter is by, because that's all you want to do when you get to the country. So our acronym reads PB, and the last one, think you can guess? S, PBS, kind of like PBS Kids. Yeah, that's our acronym. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is set up a proportion, and you're going to do that and by. All right, so see if you can do this on your own. Teachers, please pause the video now. How'd you do? Did you set up a proportion? Did you make sure that you use the by rate? All right, so if you did that, your answer should be $178,532.94. Good job, guys. Okay, now let's assume there's a similar crisis to your pet snake getting sick, like it happened in Mexico when you were traveling there last week. And this time your pet iguana has the flu, and you got to change it back. And knowing the sell rate, let's see if you can transfer your change back to dollars. Ready, go. Well, how did we do? Did we set up a proportion, which is our P, skip B, move straight to S, and use the sell rate because it's the last thing we want to do when we leave the country? Yeah? Very good job, guys. Okay, if you did all that and you set up your proportion, your final answer is going to be $1,421.21, which means you lost $72.79 in that transaction. Man, that's tough. Okay, let's review. So what we've learned today is the PBS acronym, which stands for proportion, buy, and sell. The three terms that are super important to make sure you get this down. Okay? First step, set a proportion. Next step, make sure you know which exchange rate you're going to use. Okay? Buy or sell. And finally, make sure you always keep your currency on the same side. Dollars and dollars, and other currency and other currency. Or it could be pounds and pounds, euros and euros, yen and yen, yuan and yuan, which are different, mind you. Anyway, I could go on and on. But for simplicity's sake, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Alright, so I hope that I've helped you guys understand a little bit more about how to change currency in different cultures. It's something that I really think is super important, especially if you're going to do any charity work, so that you know that what you're doing is getting you the right amount of money, or even if you're just going for a vacation. It's just an important skill to know. Okay, so if you have any friends who are traveling internationally, share this video with them so that they too can understand this not so complicated process, but can look pretty intimidating when you first go up there. So thank you for tuning in. Y'all have a great week.